Welcome to the Creating Confident Content podcast. Hey everyone, let's get real. Content is not going away, and creating content for social media is more important than ever, and there are a lot of moving parts. So I created this podcast to not only share tactical tips, but also the mindset work that needs to get done to create successful content online and offline so that you can grow your business faster and help others. So let's get started. Hi everyone, welcome to the Creating Confident Content podcast. And I am so excited that you decided to join me today. I have to laugh in a good way at how awesome this podcast is doing since I have made the change, the shift to creating confident content from Confident Conversations. And I'm so excited, and thank you, all of you, for listening. And it's funny, I think it's going to be in a race with the Good Karma Success Coach podcast, which, if you don't know, that is my other podcast that I've had for a little bit longer than this podcast. And that podcast has always been the clear winner. And so it's kind of funny to see that now, since I've made the shift, this podcast is neck and neck with the Good Karma Success Coach podcast. And also, too, something I've talked about before, it doesn't have anything to do with having a podcast guest. So I want to give people out there confidence to create a podcast where it's just you talking, or you do what feels good for you. And for me, it's been a lot of work, self-work, journey, cutting out the noise from other experts and coaches to just do what feels good for me. And that is to have a guest on when I feel aligned with their message and my audience and their audience, and I feel that they're a good collaborator. So that is what feels good for me. And that's the path that I have taken. So it's just funny to see the numbers and know that my path has been really good so far. And I'm so glad I stopped listening to all these other people out there that, maybe created something that works for them. And then they're trying to teach that exact same method, and it may not work for you. So those are things to just keep in mind as you're listening to advice. Still do what feels good for you, which is the perfect segue into what we're going to talk about today, which is let's talk about your feelings. And this is tip number 3 from the PDF that you can get by going to my website, either one, melindavanfleet.com or beyondbasicscoaching.com, and click at the top. There's a click here for 5 tips to grow your business fast. So if you're looking to level up your business or you're just getting started, either way, I have shared 5 tips, simple but not always easy, that will help you move faster towards success. And these are tips, again, that have worked for me. They may not work exactly for you, but definitely read the tips and figure that out. Like, okay, I like this tip. I'm going to try this. Maybe I'll wait on this. Maybe I'll pass on this, but do what feels good for you. So the tip itself, again, tip number 3, let's talk about your feelings, is when you are creating content, it's really important to check in with yourself. If you're constantly in the left brain, masculine energy, hustle vibe that everyone talks about, but no one really explains, you may not be feeling good. So there's a lot packed into there. And something that's really important is to recognize that we're all different. What does that mean? That means that I, for example, really like to be busy. I love creating content. So for me, it feels good. It feels productive to be writing an article every day, whether it's for the Keys Weekly, which is a paper locally that I write for, or it's on Medium for my new publication, Beyond Basic, or it's with any of the other publications I submit to. Some I get paid for, some are things I do for free. Whatever that is. Creating this podcast, doing 2 podcasts a week, that feels good to me. I'm happy. I'm being and doing in alignment with how I feel, which feels good. But that may not feel good to you, right? So don't do exactly what someone else says without checking in to see if that feels good for you. It's funny when I look at podcasts and when I look at all the shows that I've subscribed to, and I tend to use Stitcher a lot. I like the Stitcher platform. So I kind of go and once in a while I poke around and see, hey, has this podcaster talked about anything recently that I am interested in, or have they had a guest on? And I'm really amazed how many podcasts have stopped. And some of these podcasts are bigger names. And I think I've talked about this a little bit before, but what I would love to know is, have they realized that, podcasting for them just didn't feel good? It didn't feel good. Maybe their numbers weren't where they were wanting them to be either, but in general, if it still felt good for them to be podcasting, they would likely still be podcasting, right? So I give those people kudos for trying something, but then maybe stopping because it just didn't feel good for them anymore. It didn't work for them. It didn't feel good for them. And they didn't feel like they were in alignment. So as you're creating content, check in with your body. And this is what the hard thing is for a lot of people, is to really recognize, how does your body feel? Are you experiencing like a tightness, like an anxiety? Or are you feeling at peace, which is your normal state, or even happy? How are you actually really feeling in your body? And I'm stressing that because everyone talks, oh, how are you feeling? Da, 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 right? And you read books. I mean, I have tons of books that mention your feelings, but sit and think about that. Like, really, how are you feeling? And then understand like the triggers and the overwhelm and the comparison and the judgment and the self-judgment too. Like, really think about that. Think about all those aspects as you're going through the motion. And then think to yourself, why is this happening? Why? And then how can you move through it? These are really, really, really important steps to take the time to do. You have to really take the time. And I chatted about these steps on the Good Karma Success Coach podcast, episode 152 and 153, in relation to something I was going through for the masterclass that I started in Beyond Basic, which is a private Facebook group. And I'll put all this information in the show notes. And it was really, really important for me to start recognizing the triggers and how I was feeling in my body as I was working towards creating something, right? So that's why I made this a tip. And it's a tip I've never seen on anyone else's tip sheet. So I'm giving you the real deal in my tip sheets. Like, this is really the work. These are really the tips that if you can work through and either move through them faster or have them less and less or not at all, this is what will move you forward in your business. And it's just one aspect of all the many things that we have to work through as humans. But it is something really, really, really important, is to recognize those feelings, build that awareness, and then be able to move through them. So in conjunction, I created an evergreen course. It's on the homepage of both of my websites. It is only $222, which is a very small investment in yourself. But I wanted to make it where it was affordable for people, so no one was using money as an excuse, because sometimes we do that. I totally believe we do that. And so I wanted it also to be just open cart, that you can, once you hear this podcast, you don't have to wait 3 months for the cart to open, and then you only have 5 days, and what if you're on vacation and you forgot, and da 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 da, right? It's just open. And it deals with a lot of these feeling things in terms of limiting beliefs, comparison, and judgment, self-judgment and judgment of others. Kind of the yucky stuff, which is why I wanted to make it just private. But you have to realize that if you desire and you want to move forward in your business, you actually need programs like this, right? So if you're in sales and you're in marketing, you'll hear all these people say, oh, you need to sell to the desire. It has to be something someone desires, someone wants. No one wants to buy something they need. I kind of get that. But let me tell you, I have bought plenty of courses where I'm like, I need that. I need that. I don't really want it, but I know I need it. So again, listening to old paradigms isn't always going to serve you. So use your judgment and see how you feel, again, how you feel, and make decisions based on that to move forward. So that's all I've got for today. I know it's a lot to unpack. Many of you may be triggered when you hear this. Oh no, not me. I'm great. I'm this, I'm that. And I know that because I've been there. I get it. I walk the walk. I'm a coach that walks the walk and has walked the walk, which is why I feel so passionately about putting content out there that can truly transform you. And I also do private one-on-one coaching because you know what? Sometimes you just need that extra level of personal attention and someone that you can share your thoughts with and that you trust and you know they have your back to move you forward. So if you are ready, give me an email or a message, melinda@melindavanfleet.com. And until next week, I hope this podcast helps build your confidence in creating content and all things in life and business. Have a good one. Thanks for listening.